Dave Himel here, Himel Brothers Leather. I'm sitting in the home base here, enjoying my wine. Today I'm going to talk about, well, tonight, it's nighttime. Woo, nighttime, good wine. Tonight I'm going to talk about the Excelsior A1 Cossack Jacket that we make. There are a few brands that make a similar style of jacket. We were probably one of the first leather jacket makers to come out with a Cossack jacket, and it turned out to be quite a popular design. That would be my heron. And over the time that I've been making the heron jacket, I had a lot of people request a more sporty version of the heron jacket with a smaller collar and slash pockets. The most famous historical jacket made like that would be the Levi's Menlo jacket. Menlo, which I've mentioned before, is a California reference. Menlo Park, home of block tanneries. And the Levi's jacket was made quite famous by Albert Einstein. In fact, Levi's does a perfect replica of that jacket. So if you ever want to see it, you could probably Google it. It's really nice. It's a very cool design. It's very classic. We modified our heron jacket to do our own design. I would say it has a slightly beefier collar, a more shaped body, a different waistband, and it's really quite a nice design. I like the name. It's like a car from the 30s. It's like a Eureka. You know, it's like some magical moment. It's just a cool name, and I needed a name for the variant of the jacket from the heron. So I picked Excelsior. I was kind of in a rush that day, and I had a customer request that I modify my heron with a smaller collar and slash pockets. And this is the jacket that we came up with. So it's turned out to be one of my more popular jacket styles in terms of a casual menswear jacket. It has the same basic construction as a heron, but people like the hand warmer pockets. And it has a very unique, almost halfway between a scallop and perhaps a slightly cafe-like collar. It's a bit of a narrower collar, so it is a turn-down collar, but it's a sort of narrower version. So if you can see the jacket here, I'm holding it up, you can see that the collar, when you wear it, has a much more narrow profile. And that's very typical of West Coast 1930s jackets. In fact, if you own a lot of vintage jackets like I do, thousands, because I'm insane, mentally ill, a collector, this is the most typical collar that you'll see on a Cossack jacket. The heron has a very unique circular, round, full collar. This is the most common collar on an A1 jacket. So it looks really neat when it's done up. If you notice, it sort of crosses over, and it has a sort of quality like you're almost wearing a shirt. It's sort of like a cowboy shirt at the turn of the century. So this collar shape, for some reason, just really matches more nicely with these hand warmer pockets. So we put in, instead of a patch pocket, we put in these two welted hand warmer pockets with some reinforcement stitching on the points at the top where we cut the leather to install the pocket. If you notice that stitching there, there's sort of a triangle of stitching on the top and the bottom, it serves a dual purpose. One, it sews down the welt. But two, it prevents the leather from tearing over here when you're putting your hands in and you're putting stress on the pocket. And because I have so many vintage jackets, I can tell you, after decades and decades and decades, that reinforcement stitching doesn't just look good, but it's going to hold that pocket together from tearing. Because when you see jackets that don't have any reinforcement on their welted slash pocket like that, you'll often see them tear right down the edge where the cut is made in the front panel to put in the pocket. So that's not just a nice design feature, it has a mechanical purpose. So this is a classic heron body, very simple. It is a button front jacket, all Reese 101 keyhole gimped buttonholes. As I have mentioned in previous videos, that's a sort of pearl stitched button hole with a gimp, which is a sort of thicker thread that's weaved in by the machine as it sews the buttonhole, and it gives a beautiful sort of lip to the buttonhole, a nice aesthetic edge that you can feel when you button up the jacket. Now, for any of you guys and women that follow denim makers or other kinds of makers, the guys that are really into sewing will tell you that they have a particular machine or a particular model of a machine that creates just a slightly different stitch or a slightly different configuration to produce a buttonhole or a seam. You know, we all know about the Union Special for chain stitching jeans. Well, maybe we don't all know that, but for jean and denim nerds, Union Specials are a big deal. The Reese 101 is like the Union Special of buttonholes. Now, there are Singer machines that also do buttonholes. There are other modern machines that do buttonholes. This is an all-mechanical machine that was invented by Reese mid-19th century. And he had a very innovative marketing strategy for selling these machines. He would give them away. So he invented one of the first buttonhole, automatic buttonhole machines, and he would put a counter on the machine. So every time it made a buttonhole, it would count the hole. And instead of selling you a machine, if you wanted to use a Reese machine, you would buy the license to use the machine. You wouldn't pay him for the machine, he would own the machine, and he would send someone by to count the number of buttonholes you made every month, and then he would charge you per buttonhole for the use of the machine. This was a non-existent form of a business model. I can't think of many people in the 19th century that were selling manufacturer equipment where they owned the equipment and you just paid them per use of the equipment. So I have 3 Reese machines and they have millions of buttonholes made with them. They stretch back to the 1940s, my machines. So you can imagine all the different operators that have used these machines and put buttonholes in jackets over the decades. Now, these machines are hard to find. Most of them have moved off to China. There are modern versions made, I believe, in Czechoslovakia. And they're even harder to fix because they do this entire molecular process using a very complex set of gears and mechanics, and all of it needs to be adjusted. Now, my machines were set up for leather by my old mechanic, Henry. Henry was missing 2 fingers. He had been fixing sewing machines since the 1950s. Got his hand caught in one when he was a younger guy. Almost everybody I know who works as a sewing mechanic from the old days or a sewer is missing a piece of a finger. And Henry set up those machines, and he was like a Reese 101 artist. He could literally see the needle operating even though it's high speed, and he could hear and feel the machine and tell you if something wasn't right. And we worked for 3 years adjusting these just to get the right look and feel for the buttonhole. He or you or anybody who owns a Reese can adjust the stitches, the width, the depth, the body, the tightness, the length of the tail, all through mechanical adjustment on the machine. So the buttonholes that we make at Himel Bros on our 3 Reese machines are adjusted for the look and the feel of what we want for our jackets. If you go to a denim maker, you'll see a lot of the really cool denim makers that do custom jeans, they'll have a much beefier buttonhole. They'll often be using a Singer versus a Reese machine. In this particular case of this Excelsior, this is made with a natural steer hide. So it's a vegetable tanned Italian steer hide. I think I might have 3 or 4 skins left, enough to do 1 or 2 jackets. I don't order anymore. This leather comes from Santa Croce, Italy. There's hundreds of tanneries in Santa Croce, just like Himaji, Japan. They share a water cleaning and filtration system, and they share a lot of resources. So a lot of towns where they tanned leather, in the ancient times, you would go to whole towns were leather tanning towns. You needed tree bark, waste, human waste, other kinds of waste, water, and you need a place where people didn't mind living with the smell of rotting flesh and tanning because it's incredibly stinky. In most parts in cities in North America, wherever the tanneries were the poor part of town, and the wind blew over them, not from them, because they would carry the smell, right? In most cities in North America, there was always at least one tannery because leather was integral to the Industrial Revolution. Most machines were run with leather belts before the invention of synthetic rubber and plastic. And you needed a tannery, both for shoes, mainly for shoes, soles, and mechanical belts. Leather is vital to the industrialization process. So this is a natural steer hide, full veg tanning vegetable made just with barks, and aniline and wax finished. So it's a natural color with a light coating of a colored wax. Now what's cool about this jacket, which you can't really see, is that the leather started out a sort of light pink color, but over time it oxidizes. So one of the things about natural veg tan leather is the leather starts out the color of the bark. So mimosa barks are typically a sort of pinkish color, and you know, if you get into tobacco and other ones, there's a slightly different tone and hue, but that color darkens with sunlight, oil, and exposure to air. And so natural jackets take on a really cool patina over time. Now, I'm not currently using a naked veg tan leather in my repertoire. I will again. Typically, if you're buying a naked leather jacket, typically the leather is very cheap and probably not good quality. It's quite expensive still to get a really good naked leather if you want to do a high quality leather. It's just like any other leather. There's really good high quality leather, and then there's cheap leather. It's hard to tell to the common eye what a good, expensive, high quality leather is versus a cheap one. And for you people out there, you should understand that leather can run anywhere from $1.25 a square foot if you're buying it in the third world, you know, where they're not treating wastewater and they're not paying fair wages, and they're producing massive volumes of the stuff very quickly. Or you can buy leather from, you know, environmentally safe facilities where they really take care and time. It's like the difference between buying a $5 bottle of red wine and a $500 bottle of red wine. You can get drunk on a $5 bottle of wine, but you're not going to enjoy it like you're going to enjoy a $500 bottle of wine. Now, not all $500 bottles of wine are great, but I guarantee you they're usually much better than a $5 bottle of wine. So this is a beautiful, naked Italian leather. This jacket is a couple years old, so it's already started to discolor, and as you can see, the grain is popping up. This is typical of a full veg shrunken leather. So as you wear it, the grain, the natural grain, which hasn't been corrected from the animal, starts to pop up, and the jacket starts to form a shape around the wearer. Now, this is a sample, so, you know, I've had it for a while. So even though no one in particular is wearing it, it's started to form its own shape. These buttons on this particular jacket are yellow, original 1930s Malamine cat eye buttons that I got from an old button factory here in Toronto. They just happen to match this color of leather very well, so I used them. And I think they really accent the jacket really quite nicely. Again, just like the heron, this Excelsior has a really wide back panel. It just looks very nice on. It's very clean. It's very simple. It's got a real minimalistic feel. There's a slight taper. Just like the heron, it has the two big A-style gussets on the waist that you can tighten the jacket. If you're very fit and you're V-shaped, you can give it a little bit of a shape. And it has the short arced waist panel and the very simple, slightly shaped, wider 1930s, 1920s style arm. Again, with a double button closure, you can tighten up the cuff if you want it to not slip up. And that's, oh, it's our Himel Bros tag. Woo! Branding. I'm working on my branding, guys. So, this is the Excelsior Cossack Sport Jacket. And I'm quite proud of this one. It's really nice. It's really formal. It's fun to wear. You can wear it in the sunshine, you know, with a simple light cotton twill liner. It's not too hot. It's a good summer weight jacket. And of course, we can make this in any leather that we carry. So it's got all the classic Himel Bros construction, the skiving, the cotton stitching. I'll talk more about how we stitch our jackets with another model, but we have very clean, tight stitching. So if you want to order one, you can contact us. If you like this video, again, follow us on YouTube. We have a channel, Himel Bros TV. Or like us on Instagram, and you can get updates. I'll post whatever I make there